we're at enough time to let everybody kind of trickle in, and we will get started. So thank you everyone for joining. My name is Matt Jared. I am here, like I said earlier, if you're calling in late, I'm calling out of Austin, where it's sunny but a little chillier than normal. And I am a sales engineer at Vercel. And what my role is to help folks evaluate Vercel, evaluate Next.js, and see how we can help out along their journey of whatever it is they're building, whether it be an e-com store, an AI store, whether it be a marketing page. And what we're here for today, and what we see all the time, are SaaS applications. We have lots and lots of these applications, and I'm joined with Shreya. And what we're going to talk about here in a second is a little bit of a deeper introduction to ourselves, and we're going to talk about building securely a SaaS application. And if you have any questions, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions, please drop those into the Q&A. And as you can see in the chat here, on the side, we have a recording going of this. So if you have something where you're like, hey, I want to come back and I really want to dig in on this particular thing, or there was a library that was changed, or there was some kind of like small piece that I really want to like rewatch a couple times, we're going to share this out with you all. There's some links that we're going to share. We're also going to share those around. So we'll be able to kind of like keep the content kind of moving. But if you have questions afterwards, reach out to us or just reference the recording, and this will all be kind of available to you all going forward. So appreciate you guys for coming in. And again, like I said, if you have questions, drop those into the chat. We're here. We want to make this as interactive as we possibly can. So like I said, I'm joined here with Shreya. I'm going to hop myself over to the next slide. Shreya, tell us about yourself. You're the developer advocate for startups at Auth0 by Okta. Let's hear from you. What's your kind of story today? Where are you coming from? Tell us what you do at Auth0.
Absolutely. Yeah. I am part of the Auth0 for Startups program, which, if you're not familiar with it, is just like a 1 year plan for customers who are super early stage and are building a really cool application. I'd say around like majority, 80% of our customers are actually building B2B apps. So it's a great space to be to learn about the cool innovations that you guys are doing. But we provide you with Auth0 for free for 1 year. And my job is to make sure that you have everything that you need as you're using Auth0, every technical resource that you need. And then also to make sure that whatever feedback that you have on our product is actually funneled back into the right product teams, and that we're constantly improving Auth0 to your expectations. And so same goes for today as we talk about this integration with Vercel and we demo it. If you have any thoughts on it, any questions, any feedback, Matt and I would absolutely love to hear it. And then, yeah, I'm joining from San Francisco. So honestly, it's 11 degrees Celsius. I'm a Celsius girl, which to me is freezing. But obviously I can't compare to the snow in Philly. But yeah, that's it.
Amazing. And what's your, Shreya, I guess I probably should have asked you this before, but you're coming to this as a developer before, right?
Honestly, no. I did computer science in college, and then after that, I was like, I don't enjoy software engineering, so I'm going to go into developer advocacy. But it's kind of a cool space for me to be in because I have the experience to be able to talk to developers and learn from them. But using Auth0, honestly, there's not a lot of people who are like, hey, can you debug my code? It's mostly just like, hey, I'm using this specific product, this specific feature. Can you help me figure out how this works for my use case? And so that's more of the role that I'm in.
Amazing. Yeah. So I love that advocacy. The startups program is really neat to me too, because I recently have been kind of thinking about the difference between acceleration and incubation. And it sounds like you guys kind of do both. Like, hey, here, let's incubate your idea, but also if your idea is maybe reaching escape velocity, let's accelerate that. So that's really cool. And I think that's a really neat way to kind of connect with folks in the community and get like a lot of great feedback on what they're up to and connect with different teams. Really, really interesting. That's so cool. We'll talk about the startups program after this. Do you have any like notable or interesting companies that are going through it right now to share kind of any like existing companies that anybody would know about who's also done this?
Yeah, we have a couple of companies that we've worked with in the past. Traversal AI is one that we have a video on, and they're building like enterprise knowledge management systems. And we can dive deeper into them, but they're also obviously working as a B2B product. And so they need to make sure that when they're working with these enterprise customers, they have the right levels of security, but then it's also really easy to implement multi-tenancy into their application. And you don't want to have to spend like hundreds of hours building something like multi-tenancy on your own. So it's great that we have some of those solutions, and we're actually going to get a chance to see them today as well. So I'm excited to share.
Amazing. And this is what we're going to talk about is folks who have kind of already walked this path. And what we're going to do is see like if anybody who's out in the world now who's kind of knocking the tires on like what to do and how to build things. What we're going to do is kind of give like a fast track to be able to help folks like get on the right path. And have sort of like a starting point that's more than just like a blank sheet of paper. We're going to kind of like put you into a position where you can already go build, similar to how these other startups have done that. So there's a lot that we're going to kind of share on that side. But if you stick with us, we're going to talk about this process and kind of take you to that same level that some of these other folks have been through. So it's going to be an interesting process. So for me, sales engineers, I mentioned that earlier. It's my role to help folks evaluate Vercel and to kind of understand the ins and outs of Vercel. We'll talk about the difference between like what Auth0 does and what Vercel does here in just a moment. But about me, I was an engineer before this and have lived in Austin for quite a while and worked at a number of different sizes of groups. But most of my experience is on the front end. What I really, really deeply care about is when you hit save and refresh and the page does what you want it to do and you can get it into your customers' hands, that's when life is really, really good for me. So we talked about us. Let's talk a little bit. We talked a little bit about Auth0. We talked a little bit about kind of what we're up to. Let's talk about the rest of the agenda really quick. We're going to go over the Auth0 to Vercel integration, and then we're going to talk about do a demo of what the SaasStart template looks like, and then we'll have time for everybody in the audience to have any questions. Yes, I'm going to repeat this. If you have questions, go ahead and drop this into the chat. If you have any kind of like feedback on like where interesting things that are a part of like this demo as we're going through this, please feel free to shout those out. And again, all this is going to be recorded. So the Auth0 integration, we're going to talk about here in a second. And then how folks who are in the audience, or if you're listening to this at some point later on, how to kind of like take all of what we learned today and apply it right away to your business or to something that you're maybe kind of working on as a side project. And we're going to give you all the tools that you need to get started as well. So here's a little bit of our agenda. I want to know a little bit more about Auth0. I see this by Okta piece. I know Okta because we use Okta, certain companies we use Okta to log in, and this is kind of how I log into stuff. What's the difference between Auth0 and Okta, Shreya? Like, talk to me about what all I can do with Okta, or excuse me, with
Absolutely.
Auth0. Mm.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people here are already familiar with it. So I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but you're building an application, you want users to be able to log in and have their own like personalized experiences. And so that's the login screen, and that's what Auth0 is out of the box with the username, password, and then you can make it as simple or as complicated as you need it to be, depending on your requirements for security. So if you want to add passkeys to make it super like quick process or SSO, you can do that. If you want to add CAPTCHA because you want to make sure that no bots are entering, you can do those things as well. And then today, since we're talking about B2B, there's obviously a lot more that goes into serving business customers, not just in security, but also in terms of, for example, helping your business customers manage their own teams when they have their own tenants within your application, and then making sure that they can have like admin roles and other roles. And then that administrator person can basically go and say, hey, I want to enable MFA for this person or not, all of that sort of level of uh, like just being able to customize applications, but giving your users the ability to do that. So that's Auth0 in a nutshell, and then also some of the pieces that we're going to see today.
Amazing. Yeah, this is going to be really fun because we're going to go straight to a SaaS. We're not going to kind of do like a lot of kind of theoretical, like computer sciencey thinking things on this side. This is where we're going to go straight to like, I want to get software in someone's hands and sell it to them. And I think with Auth0 and what we're going to talk about with Vercel, I think also like they play in tandem really, really well. So more about Vercel, if you're coming to this maybe from somewhere else and you haven't seen this before, Vercel is the easiest way for web development teams to build and deploy web applications. An easy way to think about this is for Vercel, what we like to do is we like to enable fast teams to build fast sites. So when you look at kind of the anatomy of what a fast team is, it means that they're getting the information that they need. They're not blocked by slow tooling, and they don't have to be experts in the tooling to be able to get a benefit from that. So we'll kind of talk about what that all looks like. But if you're kind of coming from this before, from a similar kind of tool, what this means is our pipelines are going to be extremely fast. You don't need to have a computer science PhD to be able to deploy a website. You have the information that you need, and you can collaborate with non-developers really easily. The other side of Vercel is on the fast sites side. So this is on our infrastructure side. Again, we're trying to, no offense to the PhDs in computer science, I love you, but I don't necessarily need to have a PhD to go deploy, my web application and make it really fast. So this is where Vercel really plays on that side as well. Is we're going to handle the managed infrastructure for you, and we're going to do that in a way that's defined by the framework. And the framework that we maintain and own, and what the vast majority of our customers use, is Next.js. And we'll talk a little bit about Next.js and why that's really useful. But the idea, again, is that what we want to do is make fast teams build fast sites. This dovetails perfectly into how Auth0 works, in that we don't want to have to hand roll every single piece of our authorization, our authentication, our MFA, whatever it might be. We want to lean on a service that's going to help us with that, so we can get something into the hands of our customers really, really quickly. And I think it's time for us to kind of dig into some of these things. So let's go ahead and dive in. What I'm going to do is unshare my screen, and I'm going to have Shreya take over. And what we're going to do is we're going to dig into this further, and we're going to see what this actually looks like day to day with actually building stuff. So we're going to get our hands dirty here. Shreya, do you want to kind of walk us through what's going on now?
Absolutely. Before we dive into the proper deployment and the whole setup of this demo application that we have, I do want to first point out that you can head over to the Vercel integrations page, and then basically find any of the integrations that you need. Matt, I don't know, feel free to speak more on this topic, but I think in general we're familiar with how integrations work. It's usually a one-click solution. And so Auth0 launched an integration with Vercel, which is basically if you have a project within Vercel already, and you need to add Auth0 to it, it's a one-click solution. It helps you log into your Auth0 account, select which Auth0 tenant you want to set up with this project, and then it automatically pulls in all of your required environmental variables and everything, so that you don't have to sort of do that manual copy paste situation. So it's simplifying that part of the process. And then we have a SaasStart demo application, and I'm going to go ahead and click on view demo, and also send over the link that I'm on in the chat, so you can follow along if you want to. But when you click view demo, it takes you to this deployed version of the SaasStart app. I'm already logged in, and I already had an account, which is why I was able to log in. But if this is your first time testing out SaasStart, then go ahead and create an account. It'll take a couple of seconds. And then once you are all your emails verified and everything, you can see what this application does. So this is the sort of admin portal piece of a B2B application, right? So you have the ability to create or join as many organizations as you want to. An organization is one tenant or one business customer of yours. And then within each organization, you can navigate to settings. This app specifically takes care of general settings, being able to add members and edit their roles, and then, update single sign-on, add some additional security policies, all of the above. And then what we're going to see is when you have your own version of this SaasStart app with the template that's already in Vercel and you're able to deploy it on your own, then you can also go into your Auth0 tenant, make changes there, and then see those changes being reflected in this application. So yeah, let me know if any of that didn't make sense and if you have any questions. But I'm going to head back over to the SaasStart application and deploy it within Vercel, which ideally should only take a few minutes, but we'll see how it goes since it's a live demo, and usually the demo gods aren't always on our side. In my case, I already have GitHub linked, or my GitHub account linked to Vercel. If you don't already have that piece set up, then it's going to ask you to log into GitHub first. Every time you create a new Vercel project, it creates a new repository in GitHub or links to one in GitHub. So that's what this piece is over here. I've demoed this at least 200 times, so I'm going to label this Jan 16th, so I remember that it is from today's version. And I'm gonna add this project, this demo app, into my Vercel team called Shred the Craze project. I'm gonna go ahead and click create.
And while this is going on, I can kind of speak to what's happening behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
First off, there you saw on Shreya's accounts, there's a hobby kind of tag next to her name there. What we have at Vercel is there's three different kinds of accounts. The first is hobby, that all of you who are listening to this, if you don't have a Vercel account right now, just pop in to go ahead and grab a hobby account. That's totally free. If there's some additional things that you would need in terms of multiple seats or additional usage and things like that, that's where our pro account is going to come into. And then our enterprise accounts are going to be our larger companies, folks who need have different requirements and things like that. And then that's kind of the summation of the three kind of accounts. Regardless of what account you're in, what's going on behind the scenes is a thing called framework defined infrastructure. And once Shreya, that's
Freya,
freaking probably can call that,
new
yeah,
name acquired.
yeah, new name. So once Shreya clicked create this application, what's going on behind the scenes is Vercel is inferring what about Next.js you're using, what version you're using, how you're using it with Pages Router or App Router. Are you using server actions or are you using API routes? And what we're doing behind the scenes is we're building that infrastructure and we're building the ability for you to have an extremely fast site without having like to really instrument anything. The recording will be shared after this. Yeah, so great question. Um, so what we're doing on our side behind the scenes is taking all of our know-how and all of the best practices that we've seen in the world about how to build extremely fast web applications and get those into the world, and we're providing that for you. Typical cloud providers are going to go the opposite direction. They're going to give you a big square and you hope to figure things out and try to get things done the right way. And it might take a lot of trial and error and expertise to get to that point. What we're doing is pushing that work towards your application and taking that time and that energy and those calories away from the expertise on infrastructure and letting us hold on to that and letting us at Vercel run with that. And this is also what Auth0 does, which I think is really neat. Is like I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of the best way to make an authentication system, so this is where I want to lean on Auth0 for this. And I think Shreya, do you want to go ahead and add the Auth0 integration here?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is something where whoever built this application template said that the Auth0 integration was going to be a requirement. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. And there's going to be a little pop-up that walks you through the entire flow of adding Auth0 or connecting your Auth0 account and tenant to your Vercel project. So at this stage, if you're not already logged into Auth0 or if you haven't signed up for Auth0 yet, it's going to first walk you through that flow, and then you're going to reach this stage where it, has your account set up, and you can go ahead and click one of the tenants that are available. At this stage, I'm going to head over to my Auth0 account. It is best practice when you're using a template to create a new tenant so that any of the changes that you've made in your tenant don't accidentally impact it. So I'm going to go ahead and click create tenant within Auth0. And then I'm actually also going to share the link to the dashboard in the chat real quick for anyone who is following along. And I'm going to go ahead and name this Jan 16. Thank you so much, Matt, for telling me how to name my tenants, because I was naming them all sorts of random things and I kept forgetting where they were from. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. And for some reason, this is not creating a new tenant, so I'm going to reload the page and try that one more time. Jan 16th, US, development, create. Okay, perfect. I just had to reload the page. And now that I know that this tenant exists, I'm going to go ahead back here. Let's see. I'll start this process over. So add my integration. Click on the drop down of all of my Auth0 tenants. Now you can see that the Jan 16 tenant that I just created, it's brand new, so it doesn't have any settings changed, is available, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it. And then I'm going to select my Vercel project. So it's already provided me which project I want to select. So I'll click continue. If you're going through this flow, not through a template project, but just through your own project and adding an integration directly, at the previous step, you would then select which project that you want to add it to. I'm going to go ahead and click continue, confirm your selected tenant and project. That is correct. Click, ooh, continue. I did select a project, right? Confirm changes. Yes, please work. I am willing to do whatever you want me to for it to work. Let me see. I might need to go through this process one more time. I don't have anything. Oh, okay. It's good. It just had to take a second to load. Um, and now our Auth0 account and tenant are successfully integrated. You can see the little check mark over here to say that that piece worked. And then this is going to go ahead and deploy. Matt, do you want to sort of walk us through what this deployment process is and what's happening behind the scenes?
For sure, yeah. I touched on this a second ago, and if you Trey, want to go to like just open up these build logs. The
Hmm.
idea behind framework defined infrastructure is when you're building something, there's a number of different things that go into building it. One of which is how it gets built. Like, what are the pipelines? What do the pipelines do? Where do they go? One of the things that we bring on the Vercel side is, again, the framework defined infrastructure. And here's where what we're going to do is we're going to be opinionated in how we actually build those pipelines. So that's one less thing for you to worry about. On top of being opinionated on how the pipelines are going to run and what they're going to do, where they run and the speed by which they run is another thing that kind of plays into this. I was talking before about like fast teams and fast sites. This is one of the pieces of what we really care about for fast teams is making these pipelines run extremely fast. We do that because we have opinions on what they're supposed to do, and we have really strong feelings and really strong kind of experience and history in this, where we're going to use that to make these extremely fast. One less thing for you to worry about. And this is where you're just going to have the ability to build stuff extremely quickly because those pipelines are not going to be something that you have to worry about or maintain or keep up or improve. That's just something that's on our plate, not on yours. And you can see here, this is actually, I think it took like 40 seconds for the whole thing to get through. After you connect put the glue in between the two pieces with the integration, getting this up and running is really, really quick. So I think you can just go next to the dashboard now, and then we'll actually have our new version of the site up and running.
Awesome. I'm going to open it in a new tab. Should I just click visit?
Yeah, you can just click visit there, and I will also annotate and I can kind of point you to some things as we go along here. So you can see this is using the template. If you're following along at home, you've done the exact same thing. Your URLs and your tenants are going to be different in Auth0 and for Vercel. But you can see here, Auth0 SaasStart Jan 16, we're up and rolling. Like in your URL bar, we've actually built this, and you can follow along here. Um, we are like up and going. So what's amazing about this, number one, we're starting on a really, really good foundation. We have Next.js. If you're not familiar with Next.js, what Next.js is we like to call it the framework for the React framework is what we like to call it. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking all of the best of front end development, so React, different things like that, and then we're taking back end development as well. So we're taking like serverless functions and the ability to create like APIs with Node. And instead of having these be two separate services with two separate kind of tools, we're creating the glue between those two pieces. And we're also, again, bringing opinions on how things should be built and how things should be run. If you go back in time when React first came out, the idea of React, it was a very, very powerful, amazing thing. But now on the other, like getting it up and running and getting it up into production was a huge headache. And it was kind of hard to do that. So the idea with Next is we're not going to change React. We're going to give React some superpowers. We're going to make it easier to kind of manage this. And then we're also going to give it the ability to have a backend. So this is basically where Next.js comes in. And what we're doing with this template is all of that exact same work, except now we're also adding Auth0 on top of it. So if you're getting to this point now where you have this built and up and running, you now are ready to go build any SaaS application you want because you've done like 80% of the very difficult things, such as like getting like your application up and running, making it secured with Auth0, and then having a tech stack that's going to support you as you grow. So what you can do here, Trey, if you wanted to, is you could go ahead and log in, and now you're operating inside of your own application. Like we're now, even though it looks identical to the one that we logged into earlier, this is also you might need to create a new account, but this actually works. So we're now at the point where we can build whatever we want on top of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we can see in our tenant that we just created and connected to this project. If I head over to user management and users, there's a bunch of users in here already. But I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get started and just put like a random password that I don't. Okay, you know what? I'm going to use a strong password.
Nice.
Um, See if that lets me. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and verify my email.
And while this is going on, I just kind of want to talk about, like, in general, when we're looking at, like, if I'm going to be building a startup today, if I'm going to be building a SaaS application, and Shreya, cut me off whenever you come back with your the correct link.
Go for it.
If I'm going to be building a SaaS application, the most important things is that I need to be able to move extremely quickly, and I need to be able to iterate very, very fast. And the reason is because customers are going to come back to me and give me feedback really, really quickly. Um, the kind of the whole point of a startup is that we're bringing something to market that didn't exist before. In our first try at this, our first stab at this might not be right. Like, we might have built the totally wrong thing. Maybe not like in the large kind of piece of the world, but we maybe built the wrong thing for small feature sets, or for how things look or work, or maybe just there's something that a user wants us to have a different flow for.
Hmm.
So the idea that we can just not have to fight building and handling users, and we don't have to fight any of our infrastructure, and I don't really have to be an expert in those things, is really powerful. Because what I can do as a founder, as an entrepreneur, as an early developer, as a CTO, whatever you might be, who is out there listening to this, instead of fighting all these different things and building things from scratch, what I'm doing is I'm going straight to customers and I'm saying, what is good about this? What is bad about this? Do you want more of this? And then when I get that feedback from my customers, I can then go continue to sell this to more people. And now I've gone from here's a project to here's a company and here's a business. And this is now a startup. And without all of this, like, kind of velocity that I would have on my team side and also on the infrastructure side, makes it a lot easier for me to get up and get going and actually get a project out into the world and actually get feedback on what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it looks like we're creating an organization now.
Yep, we're going to go ahead and create an organization. And then once we've created it here, we should be able to then see it in our list of organizations down here. So it
Sweet.
automatically just updated in here. And this is the part that we've already seen, right? So we can go into our settings and we can make changes to everything that's happening in here. But now we want to sort of see that when we make changes within Auth0, are we able to see that back in there as well? So I'm going to go ahead and probably try to update this logo. I'm going to try to grab a random image online. Um, I'm
This
going
will
to
be
grab the
fun.
Vercel
I'm excited to
logo.
see what did you look for?
I'm going to look for the Vercel logo right now
Okay,
online and
great,
just try to
awesome.
grab like an image URL because that is the way to add a logo in here.
Oh, cool.
Um,
Okay, great.
and let me see. Just going to grab a random one and copy image address. And I hope that this works. And if not, we'll look for something else. Okay, so I can
Look
see
at
that
that.
in Auth0, the Vercel logo is saved. I don't know if this is an older one or if it's the right one. Let's see if that made any changes. It's not the prettiest, but you were able to sort of see how changes within Auth0 are also automatically synced in and updating this um, project in Vercel.
Okay, so the customization layer is really quick. So
Mhm.
I've noticed a lot of times when I use different auth providers, it feels like I'm using somebody else's. When I go to log into something, it feels like I'm leaving their, like, the world of the SaaS application. But if I can kind of like modify how this is looking to be my brand and to be something that looks like something that I can control, this is really powerful. So, like, the kind of like, I own this end-to-end experience without having to maintain this end-to-end experience is what I can do. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. Yep. And then you can see that within roles, you have like a couple of roles in here as well. And then if I go into user management and roles, those same roles are reflected here. So you can change the permissions within Auth0. And again, in the same way, that would be updated in this project. And then this project is now your own sort of deployed version of an admin portal. So you can use this and
Oh,
connect it
wow.
to your
Okay.
own B2B SaaS application and then use this to manage or give your business users the ability to manage their users.
This is so neat. Okay, so this is why major light bulb moment for me. I really like this a lot. The reason why this is so cool is a lot of times at Vercel we see like large SaaS businesses come through, and one of the main things that they have are a bunch of different roles for their end users. And what we see a lot of times is that when we talk about selling and we talk about like connecting with customers and things like that, it's not like, hey, did you like click the buy button and bought something from me? We're talking about more like long tail, really long like sales cycles, maybe not really long, but longer sales cycles where we need to get folks to like enable businesses to do better work. And this is where the B2B SaaS side comes in. And the fact that this is baked in already is really great. So, like, a lot of times with customers, what we're looking for is the ability to give somebody an admin role. Or what they're looking for is like, okay, I have an application. I've built this application. I've deployed it to Vercel. What we're working on is we have sold basically everybody an admin role. But what we want to do next is be able to get more viewer roles or member roles or things like that. And all that work is built into Auth0. Like this is already done. Like I just need to use this is what it
Exactly.
sounds like, right? Oh,
Yep.
wow. Okay. Super cool. And this is the idea where I guess getting a little bit further into if you're on the founder side, if you're on the entrepreneurial side, wherever you are in this journey, the idea is let's use tools that are going to get us to the 80%. And then that way I can quickly iterate with what my with what feedback I'm getting from my customers. And do my customers need different roles? Do my customers need different kind of, like intricacies in these roles? And when they have these roles and it's pre-built into Auth0, these end users can do pretty much whatever they need to do, and I don't have to manage that for them. There's not another service that I have to tap into. I just use my auth service, which is Auth0 already. This is really powerful.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm glad we were able to show that and it worked. Do let us know if you have any questions. That was the end of the main demo. Is there anything else that we're missing, Matt?
So what we can do is we can talk about what it looks like in Vercel. So like we've done this, we've got this up and running. If you want to share your Vercel really quick, Shreya, I can kind of just walk through what's inside of
Oh
there.
yeah, good idea.
So that way we can talk about like what this site looks like. We've talked a lot about what we can do as a business. You first off, like I'm going to in the build versus buy spectrum, I'm going to buy. I'm going to move to something that's going to manage these things for me. We talked a lot about why Auth0 and Next.js are a really good pair with each other, and then deploy those and then deploy that application onto Vercel. One thing I want to call out is when we're looking at this Vercel project, up here is our top navigation bar. So this is going to kind of like walk through a bunch of different pieces for us. There's a lot of documentation around all of these different pieces, but what I would think most folks would find really interesting is, let me clear my little drawing that I made here, and I'll flip over to this deployments box. If we could flip into here, and I just kind of want to show into this like deployments area here. So when we went through our first pass of connecting Auth0 with Vercel, every single time we push a commit, there's going to be a deploy. And when we connected the integration and we kicked off the project, that was a deploy. And you can see that with 12 minutes ago. What we can do here next actually is I'm gonna have you just click into this right here.
Right.
And what we're going to do is talk about what's inside of here. One of the things that I think might be really interesting to the audience is we talk about how we have to have fast teams and fast sites. One of the things that make Vercel teams really quick is the pipelines. We talked about not having to manage our own pipelines. Vercel is going to bring those opinions. Another thing that's really interesting, and this actually might be useful for folks who are in the B2B world, who are possibly sharing things out to end users or sharing things across to their team, is the idea behind Vercel preview environments. So for every commit, there's going to be a build. For every branch, there's going to be a build. And we went straight to production on this one because it's on the main branch. But there's also some options down here below. So if you just go ahead and click on, whoa, that's a really bad little arrow that I made here.
Oh.
But this bottom one, so you can see we have like the link for our production, the link for our branch, and then the link for our commit.
Mhm.
And inside of this area here, this is a preview environment. And that URL that I clicked on, auth SaasStarter, yours is going to be different if you're out there watching in the future, if you're following along. And what you're going to have the ability to do is share this with customers and share this with teams. And there's toolbar functionality on here that's going to allow us to kind of like toggle feature flags and things like this. And this is the idea of what a fast team looks like. And the anatomy of a fast team is getting information as quick as possible without having any drag behind it. I don't want anybody to pull me back and say, well, no, I have to log into this thing. I have to go SSH into some server. I can only do this on staging. Let's schedule a meeting. God forbid. Let's go talk to each other more and like just slow things down. No, all of that goes away. What I want to do is just get this URL in someone's hands so they can see a preview of what's going on. I know that this looks just like the production URL, but imagine this was a branch where we were trying a different thing with our auth. And instead of having to fight and do all these different things on an auth flow, I know that Auth0 is going to take this for me. But what I'm trying to do is focus on getting my conversion rate higher and getting people who might be more interested in this. So my team can move really, really quickly. The other side of this, again, is I don't have to manage any of this infrastructure, and Vercel is going to build these pipelines for me. So if I have a change that I want to make, it's not something that has to take like 45 minutes. It's just going to take a minute for me to make this change and then see that come to life. So if we're kind of like playing back and forth, I know in this example, it's, the black is on the left and the login is on the right. Let's say we want to flip that. We're not going to get into the code of flipping that. But if we wanted to look through a bunch of different examples together to kind of work on that, or I wanted to show a customer those examples to see what would be easier for them to use, this is the type of thing that Vercel provides right out of the box for hobby, pro, and enterprise accounts that's going to help your team move a lot faster. And now when I don't have to worry about that auth layer, I can now focus on just like shipping software to my customers and getting things in front of people who may or may not use them. And that's kind of the whole point of this game that we're in here.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Curious if
really
you found that helpful, Shred. Do you think your teams would use this, the folks who are going to the accelerator?
absolutely. I think especially when you're super early stage, you're constantly making changes to your application, but you already have users, and so you don't want to just like roll all of the new changes out to everyone. So being able to sort of test that out and then show those different versions to with your team, with your I don't know, investors, whoever's your stakeholders are, is such a great like ability to do within here. Um, yeah, I'm excited. Do you have any customers, any like success stories of people that have built B2B applications with Vercel?
Yeah, I mean, we have a ton. There's lots of those folks who have come through and are building those B2B applications. We'll share a link for this afterwards. But I want to say that the most important thing that we've seen from these customers is their team can move really fast and they don't have any of the operational overhead that they have to think about. They're just shipping things. And then the other side of that is that most of the folks who are building SaaS on Vercel are doing it end to end. They're using all of our infrastructure and they've started from one tiny little seed that's grown into this enormous application with tons of users. There's lots of revenue flowing through the business because of this. And the idea is what starts with a tiny little seed can eventually become very powerful. And I know folks who are out here maybe like, should I do this? Am I interested in this? How am I going to do this? And the idea is that if you have kind of the right like building blocks and you're in the right spot to start, and then you keep like taking a step forward, you're eventually this tiny little seed that might be sitting in there today could turn into something really amazing. And that's kind of the big takeaway for me over the last couple of years of working for Vercel is not every project who I'm seeing is amazing today started amazing. A lot of times they were just with the template and they just kept going and they just kept iterating and moving things forward. So that's kind of my challenge for the audience is, give this a shot and see, like, don't shot block yourself before it gets out. Try and plant that tiny seed today and see if we can get something cool going. You're a lot closer than you think with all the tools that are available today.
That was very inspirational.
We're ready to go. Listen, we're gonna watch from. I'm trying to get my daughter to watch Remember the Titans with me one day. We're gonna be pumped up. We got to get the motivational speeches going.
I love
Um,
it.
okay, great. Any other thoughts or questions on the Vercel side? One thing I would love for you really quick, if you just want to hop back one page,
Mhm.
Treya, just to kind of see. I have a couple other things to share with folks. We don't have to get into it. I've make sure I've got my little marker here. Analytics and speed insights, logs and observability. We don't have to click into any of these. I'm just kind of like this is something that we would have to enable. These are more for like our observability suite for folks who want to say like, okay, how many visitors are coming in through here? What am I doing on this? How many folks are clicking my Auth0 button, whatever it might be. Our observability suite is a new suite that kind of talks about different things. You can see it's already in action. So like when we go to the API Auth0, when we go to whatever Auth0 endpoints to see kind of how these different things work, we're already seeing that it's up and running and it's already been connected without us having to install anything. The firewall is the last kind of piece that I want to talk about. If you just click onto that one next, right here, what's going on with the firewall is this is the thing, like we don't have to instrument. This is like a zero overhead firewall that's going to give us a whole suite of tools that can block malicious traffic. We won't get into this like too deeply, but there's a bunch of stuff that we can do inside of here without us having to instrument this. And this is where we say like, okay, I want to kind of have my hands on the infrastructure a little bit more. This is one of the first kind of new features that we've enabled that allows folks to get their hands on things. The reason why I'm bringing this up, because I think it's so useful for this audience, is if you're getting traffic from bots who are maybe trying to do something, here's where with Auth0 as your auth provider, you already kind of know your users are going to be like all the bad actors of that are going to get swatted away. So like somebody maybe who's trying to do different attacks, all of your auth is run through Auth0. Let Auth0 handle where your user data sits. But then any other attacks, here's where we can actually start swatting those away as well. There's a number of different things that we can do. We'll follow on with some documentation on this. I don't want to go too deep in the weeds because we're we're bumping up on time a little bit. But this is where you can configure your firewall. And then we also have a system-wide firewall that also swats away malicious attacks. So there's a number of different layers where you can actually go investigate on this. Are the invocations on the DX platform server function invocations? Invocations, yes. I don't know where you're asking that question, Diego, but
I think that
yes,
was the
serverless
Auth0
functions. Yes, over here. That's correct. Yeah, sorry, I thought it was on the firewall and I got confused. Yes, so this is the serverless function. These are serverless function invocations. If you run an API and you're getting a bunch of requests on this, it'll actually tell you, here's where my requests are. This is what this looks like. They take this long. And then the really interesting one that I found is if you actually go to external APIs. So if you're using, say, like, I've built an AI wrapper over something. Here's this is really interesting. Is we've actually called Auth0, and this is how I can make sure that this request to Auth0 is getting through, and it's operating in a way, that's going to perform really well. The other part that I want to call out, I talked about this earlier. We're on a hobby account. This is something you can go do right now by just clicking a few buttons. And I think with Auth0, there's also a number of ways. How can I get started with Auth0? To like make an account, right? I'm curious because with the Vercel, you just go to Vercel and you start an account. For Auth0, is there a specific account we need to make or anything?
No, it's exactly the same way that we sort of logged in. Let me see if I can actually go ahead and log out and log back in again. Log out. So yeah, you can select your SSO mechanism, or I usually just log in through email, but if you just click sign up, same process as Vercel.
Exact same way, yeah. So the friction here is really, really low. So create 2 accounts for 2 new services, make that integration, use this template, and you're off and running and up and going. And then inside of here, these 2 pieces, since we use the integration, that glue that kind of connect the 2 pieces together is already there. And it's already kind of just spun up so we can kind of monitor what's going on between those 2 pieces. Really, really fun. Awesome. We've got a couple minutes to go. Any other questions that folks have that are coming through? We got the invocations on that. Any thoughts or anything like that? Shreya, how can we keep involved with the startups program? I want to know more about that. Auth0.com/startups, I think is what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me go ahead and pull up the link for that. And throw it in the chat over here. So it's auth0.com/startups, exactly what Matt just said. And it is 1 year of Auth0 free for your startup. If you're a YC company, you do get it for 2 years. And it is everything that's on the B2B professional plan, which is probably out of our self-service plans, the most comprehensive one. So it has everything that you would need for any type of B2C or B2B application. And then you have me and the rest of our team there to support you. So, like I said, while you're on the plan, even in your application process, if you have any questions about your use case and you need technical guidance, you want someone to review your use case to make sure that you're implementing it correctly before you start making any changes, or you've already started making changes and you need technical support further down the line, we are there to support you. And then towards the end of your startup plan, when you are deciding what to do next, which plan to go to, move to the free plan or go to another paid plan, we are there to make sure that you know, have all of the resources that you need to make the right decisions.
Love it. And this is really powerful too. This 100,000 MAUs. So this is monthly active users. This is really cool. So especially when you look at a multi-tenant SaaS, this is the idea of maybe I want to go in. I see 5 enterprise connections here. That's an interesting one too. But let's maybe say I'm going to go try and sell my B2B SaaS to an organization that has 5,000 people. And those 5, let's imagine we're an HR organization and we're going to do some HR thing where you do check cashing or something like that, where for someone's
Something
salary.
HR does, yeah.
Some HR, yeah. And the reason why I'm saying HR is because that's usually a wedge for most people in the company to have to use it. And this is a wedge where we'll say okay, I want to go after, a 2,000 person company and they have to use my HR startup. And now I've sold them 1 account and those 2,000 people are a part of that monthly active users. So the amount of people that you would need inside of a B2B SaaS, 100,000 is extremely generous. That's a lot of people who you would need to go get. If you're looking at this on the B2B sales side, that's, depending on the type of customer that you're looking for, that's tons of customers that you could get onboarded really quickly. So that's really, really generous.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's usually always customers that are like part of those teams that log in once and then never really use the application again. So those ones are just sort of filtered out and don't count towards the 100K monthly active users piece. Yeah,
I love it. This is so neat. Cool. Any questions from the group? Um,
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, but please feel free to add some more. Um, I think Matt and I will stay on the call.
yeah, we'll stay on if anybody has any further questions. Yeah, we can share. Oh, let me, I'll take screen share back. Um, oops, let me try now.
All yours.
I'll take screen share back because we have a slide here um, with the links that we shared today.
Mhm.
So Vercel.fyi/auth0 integrations. We'll share all these later. Same here, Vercel.fyi/auth0 startups. Vercel.fyi/SaasStart. So what this is, the integration, is just an overview of the integration. You can go ahead and set this up whether you have an Auth0 account to begin with or not. And that way we just basically say like, hey, the glue between these two pieces is going to occur on the integration. You don't have to use the integration for Auth0 to make it really a great use case, but it just saves a lot of time, makes it a lot easier on the Auth, as we saw earlier, like to just kind of connect the pieces. I would highly recommend using that. This is about the startups program from Auth0 in Vercel.fyi/SaasStart. For us, this is one of our favorite templates. You can also kind of click around in that template marketplace to look at other SaaS kind of examples. But for if you're in the B2B SaaS world, this is just a killer kind of like overview of like how an application should be structured. And yeah, so I just wanted to make sure we shared those links. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. We're at the 10 till 2 Central Time mark. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. Any other questions you have, there's sales@vercel.com to get a hold of us. And then Shreya, your email is in here earlier as well. I think it's
Yeah.
shreya.gupta@auth0.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and send that in the chat as well. So please feel free to send me an email if you have any questions about this webinar or the startups program. And thanks so much for joining. Yeah, thanks for everyone who helped put this together. And I think there's going to be a quick poll at the end. So if you have any feedback
Oh
on
yeah,
the integration or how this event went, please let us know.